Well, good evening everyone and welcome to the Prestige Tier here in One Hub Racing for Season 14. We're at round 13 and a fantastic Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium, and it's almost going back all the way to the beginning of the season. This was of course the scene of our pre-season race that we had with the Prestige Tier, where we saw plenty of battles up and down through the field. Many drivers here tonight might have taken some early information from that pre-season race as well. Maybe can use it as an advantage today. Maybe they can try a different setup, different tyre strategy. We'll just have to see how that all develops. Firstly, of course, this league is proudly sponsored by Next Level Racing, and with Christmas now really just around the corner, might be a good opportunity to get onto that website as well. Have a look at some seats, some pedals, some seating rigs, all that sort of stuff as well. Maybe treat yourself to a nice early Christmas present. Some really quality gear on there, so do make sure you check them out. We've got, I think tonight, 18 drivers, or I believe it might be 17. There are a couple of drivers missing. The Racing Point of Chapelaine yet again is not here. Brettster in the Haas, unfortunately, is unwell. So he will not be racing, and I believe LR Yogurt in the Mercedes might be joining at some point through qualifying if he can manage to get home in time. But other than that, we do have a relatively healthy field compared to the last couple of races where numbers have been a bit low, so it's good to see that the numbers are going back up as well. We can see here then that the green ticks are now starting to arrive on the right hand side, and very very shortly we'll be going to the track for the 18-minute qualifying session, and then of course the 50% race distance that we have across all four of these tiers. So just a few seconds to go there before we do go to the grid. Sam Gamer comes on stream saying wet race please. Yes indeed, the Prestige Tier. I'm not too sure what's been going on with all the other tiers as this season has developed, but apart from a couple of little rain showers that we've had in some of the qualifying sessions, most notable in Austria a few weeks ago, we haven't really had any rain affected races in the Prestige Tier. And I do ask a couple of people to make sure they do at the beginning of the qualifying session just put up on the stream what the weather's going to be, so I can see. Unfortunately I don't get the screen, but all the drivers do, telling them about the track conditions and the weather and the temperature in both qualifying and the race. I'm sort of left in the dark a little bit, so it's nice to know for me as well, and for you guys watching, what the weather is going to do both qualifying and the race. Everyone is just syncing up now, which gives me a good opportunity then to talk about the standings then. So round 13 of 21, we're now starting to really get into the second half of this season. Still plenty of races left to go, so nothing is all set in stone just yet, but ILRT Louis in the McLaren continues to lead the way, 234 points. He's a massive, a whopping 86 points ahead of Blizzard and the Red Bull. Onyx in third place on 143. Midnight having a very strong season for the Racing Point team. He's in fourth on 94, just 4 points ahead of Paris in the second, Williams on 90. At the bottom of the standings, Toxic Tomato, who's making his second start here tonight. His first last week was rather forgettable with a litany of spins. He's obviously at the bottom on 0 points, just ahead of him both Wommer in the McLaren and Calzo in the Renault on 4 points. As for the Constructors' Championship, well, we could call it the McLaren F1 team, but we might as well call it the Louis F1 team. He scored 234 points so far this season. The McLaren team in total has 238, so I think that's something like a 98.5% swing basically towards Louis. So it's the Louis F1 team leading the Constructors' Championship on 238 points. The Williams team in second place on 233, just 10 points ahead of the Red Bull team in third on 223. And then we have a second battle in the Constructor between Racing Point, Ferrari and Mercedes in fourth, fifth and sixth. The Racing Point team lead out on 121, Ferrari in 5th 115, and Mercedes in 6th 112. Then we have Alfa Romeo 76, Renault 44, the Haas team on 39, and the Toro Rosso team bringing up the rear on 29 points. So then Lakitu comes on stream, as does Ryan McLaughlin as well. A dry qualifying, as you can see, heavy rain at the end of the race. Now I can only assume that will transition from a period of light rain, so at some point in the race, and these drivers will obviously be aware of it as you guys are now watching the stream, but at some point it will start raining and then progressively get wetter as the race goes on. And well, a circuit like Spa with changeable conditions, who knew that Spa with its fantastic single time sort of weather climate that this sort of location has, will finally have some sort of rain in the race, which is good to see. So the qualifying session now underway, 16 drivers. So we're missing another person, not too sure who that is. In fact, it's Calzo, actually, just looking through the names on the left-hand side. Calzo's not here for whatever reason. I've mentioned before that Bretster and Shapalele are not here tonight, so that's down to 16, because we should have Yogurt hopefully arriving at some point. So then we'll bring up the telemetry and the lap data and the details. We'll see what tyres are on. So the soft, medium, hard compounds are obviously used through here as well. Qualifying, well, we've got that transition period, of course, in the race now, which might change the sort of the tyre strategies and the qualifying runs that these guys are going to do. Now, traditionally around here, it seems to be that a soft and a medium tyres will be used in both qualifying and the race. You can one stop this if you're a little bit careful, but of course if that rain starts to arrive sort of midway through the race, and the change onto the intermediates and then the full wets happens, you know, towards the end of the race, and people might be looking to maybe start this race on the mediums and the hards and go all the way towards that rain shower, where hopefully they can hang on just long enough to change on probably first the intermediates and then a few laps later the full wets. I don't think it'll be a change of dries straight onto full wet tyres. We always have that intermediate transition, so it could be an interesting qualifying session here. And certainly as the race goes on as well, it'd be an idea to keep it clean as long as you can and get to that rain shower, because it's obviously going to be a two-part race this. First half dry, second half wet. And we can see now quite a few drivers coming across the line. Midnight has just started his first flying lap. We'll jump on board with someone who's about to start one, I think. Let's try and find her. We'll stay with Blizzard. Onyx. Oh, Onyx has a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with someone. I didn't see who he'd tagged with, unfortunately. But we'll jump on board with Blizzard. Hopefully he is going for a flying lap. No, he's not. He's going in. No, he is. He's just taking a very wide line through the final corners. Here we go then. This is the first flying lap around Spa, coming along this very, very short main straight, if you like. Heavy braking on left hand side, flick the car into the right for the Lassos hairpin. Second or third gear out of here as well in a very difficult traction area. Then across the start line and the pit complex on the right hand side for the support races. And now through the fantastic Eau Rouge corner, left, right, and then just at the top through the little kink of Vadillion. And now onto the Kemmel straight, opening up the DRS. You want to take a shallow line over to the left hand side of the track if you can, to not scrub off any speed. Keep building at speed all the time. Slam on the brakes and hammer through the gears into the Lecom chicane. The right, left and right. Understeer and oversteer will be your enemy and your friend through here, so it's careful to make sure you keep the right line. Run the car a little wide and then straight away down to Rivage corner here. A very long, sort of slow, sluggish off-camber right-hander. Stay away from the exit curb, it'll unsettle the car. Over to turn 9, the corner with no name. Run wide a little bit and now down this little back straight here over to the right hand side for the fantastic turn 10 and 11 sequence of poo on there. You only really need to knock it down a gear and just lift off the throttle there. Over to the left hand side, coming up to the Fania chicane, turn 12 and then turn 13. You can take more speed into 12 and then down a little bit more into 13 as well. Straighten up the car on the right hand side, straight away over to the left hand side for turn 14, and then again off of the exit curve if you can, as much as you can, to try and not scrub off that speed through 15, curve a poor frere, and now onto the back sort of curving straight, if you like, of Blanchimont. 16, 17 and 18, building the speed all the time, up through the rears, up through the gears, over 200 mile an hour, and again try to limit the amount of scrub off speed you have. Over to the left hand side, heavy braking for the bus stop chicane, which has been modified so many times recently. You can abuse the curbs here on both sides of it as well, but again straighten up the car on exit, hammer up through the gears, foot on the throttle, over to the right hand side for the shortest run to the line, and Blizzard takes provisional pole with a 42.551. Other drivers setting lap times. Midnight in second place, a 42.7, Nikito in third, a 45.3, and Pablo Jogler in the Toro Rosso with a 46.008. Other drivers out on circuit as well. Louis in the pits on the medium tyres. We've got Lewis in the Toro Rosso. He's out there on the hards at the moment, so this may very well be just a banker or a sighter lap, but he's certainly going for it. EOS mode up to number 5, but he's deciding to abandon that lap, come back into the pits. Samster out on circuit. He's just coming through the bus stop chicane to complete his first flying lap on these soft tyres, opening up the DRS, coming across the line. What's he going to do? Up into P3, a 43.057. And Sam has had one of those very tricky seasons where he seems to be competitive but falling over other people's accidents or making mistakes all by himself. But he had a good run in the last couple of weeks as well, so hopefully he can build on that confidence coming into Belgium tonight as well. Just comes on stream. Much better turnout this week, which is good to see. Yes, it is. Last couple of races have been a bit... I kind of get a bit disillusioned, disappointed when only 12 or 13 people turn up. But we've got 16 here, maybe 17 if Yogurt manages to get home in time. And Sam Hunt also coming on stream to say it's a dry quali and dry race with rain plus 45 minutes into the race. So it could be a rain shower just towards the end of the race rather than half of the race actually being run in the wet conditions. But again, we'll have to wait and see when that rain does arrive towards or at some point in this race as well. 11 minutes left of this session. 6 drivers have set lap times. Blizzard still on provisional pole. Louis back out on circuit then, now on an outlap on the soft tyres. He's up behind a Mercedes. I think that'll be Lakitu. It's the only Mercedes represented here tonight unless Yogurt can get in. So Louis then, I think will be everyone's hot pick down to win the championship at some point in the next few weeks, but also to take pole and the race win here as well. But he's not feeling confident. Louis spoke to him before the race. He said, you know, this is one of the circuits where you don't really want to be on pole position because the DRS and the slipstream, well certainly the slipstream round is very powerful, certainly along that Kemmel straight, and if you're punching a hole in the air at the front of the field on lap 1, everyone else behind is going to be taking advantage of that as well. So if Louis comes out of Rodelion in the lead, don't be surprised to see him down in second, third or fourth place by the time these guys heavy break into Laycom. So Louis will be aware of that, but he'll still be going guns and glory as well to try and secure yet another pole position here this season. We've got TTG Thomas off the circuit. Looks like he's made a mistake at Laycom, but he manages to recover the car nicely. No significant damage on that car, so he'll be able to carry on, but spinning on your outlap is not something you want to do. Sam Game event currently down in 11th with no lap time set. Sector 1, 29.741. We'll jump on board with Red Bull driver as he makes a bit of a mistake there in the middle part of Laycom. And now coming down to Rivage, turn 6, a very clunky corner this. This corner almost feels like it takes an age until you can finally get on the power. It takes so long to finally straighten up the car. And then a little kink of 7, and then all the way down through 8, 9, 10, 11 as well. Pouon is an absolutely glorious corner if you get it right. You take too much curb on the inside or the outside, the car becomes really unsettled as well, and you'll lose a lot of time and maybe even have an accident. But if you nail Pouon, it does put a smile on everyone's face. And then through the Fanian chicane as well. Sector 2 coming up now. The right hander again off of the curb a little bit, coming into Blanchimont then, or through Curve à Port Frère. 15.2 is for sector 2 at the moment. Now through Blanchimont then. And let's see what Sam Gamer can do. His teammate currently on provisional pole. Can Sam get anywhere near that? I don't think so, but it's not looking like too bad of a lap. Sector 2 and Sector 3 certainly seemed a lot more cleaner. We jumped on board at Laycom and he was making a bit of a hash of it as well. So through the bus stop chicane. Again, straighten up the car, a little bit of oversteer there, corrected nicely on the wheel, stays over to the right hand side. It's a 43.359, which puts him between the McLaren of Wommer and the Mercedes of Lakitu in P6. We'll come back to Louis then. Let's see what our championship leader is currently doing. We'll jump on board again with the McLaren. We've got Midnight over to the left hand side, just politely staying out of the way. Yellow flags in sector 2. It's probably for Midnight actually going slowly around the circuit. I don't think anyone else has crashed. So then we'll have a look at his Sector 2 time, see what's going on with that. And you can see there's an ERS mode number 4 as well. It's a little trick that some of these drivers use. Once you sort of hit 6th gear and above, knock it down from ERS mode number 5 to number 4, you do gain a bit of extra speed and power through and save a little bit extra of the ERS as well. So that's why you'll see then down these long straights, most of these drivers will live being 4 and 5. You can see him knocking up to 5 air because he knows that he needs as much ERS as possible coming out of the chicane in the lower gears, all the way down to 1st, and then a quick change up to 2nd and 3rd as well, and 4th again. Up to the line, he's out of ERS, and look at that, Louis' first lap is not good enough to get on provisional pole. He's half a tenth away from Blizzard. So Blizzard's got a good turn of speed in that Red Bull. LR Nick has retired from the session after setting a 43.6. Not too sure if he's crashed or just decided he's had enough. So Toxic Tomato, who had a difficult debut last week, which he spent more time being spun and being lapped and in the pits. I think he made something like 4 or 5 pit stops it was in the end. And hopefully he can put the wrongs right with a first real competitive showing here tonight at Belgium. Thomas coming across the line, I think, is he setting his first lap? He is, a 43.066. So if we discount Pablo Jogler's lap time, the guys that have set a lap time so far, the 11 of them, they're separated by just over a second, and considering it takes over 100 seconds to do a lap here, very competitive so far. Got Midnight up into 3rd, Onyx 4th, Samster currently into 5th. Glock, who is a returnee to the Prestige Tier, it's been made aware to me anyway because I wasn't here last season, but he was apparently racing in the Prestige Tier, so it's obviously a driver that's very competitive and can handle his own, and he did a very good race last week at Germany compared to his teammate. So Wommer, Sam Gamer, Lakitu back out on circuit as well. Lewis now is starting another flying lap on these medium tyres. And we still wait to see lap times from Activos, Toxic Tomato and Paris as well. Paris, who has missed the last few races, which is why he's dropped down to 5th in the championship. Just over 6 minutes left to go of the session. I'm sure in the next couple of minutes all the big guys will be back out for one final run. So on board of Paris, down in 16th place at the moment. No lap time is set. This is his first real run in the qualifying session. Rouge and Rodillion was very nice. Down the Kemmel straight now, 210 mile an hour. I think it's the highest we've seen so far down here. Now tackling Lacombe as well. I'll be expecting Paris puts in a reasonable time here. He should be well up inside the first couple of rows. Blizzard and Samster back out on circuit. Sam now up into 3rd place, so he set 2 lap times already in his qualifying session. The sun is now out as well. The clouds have lifted. It was a bit overcast at the beginning of the session, so the track temperature and the air temperatures will be increasing, which will help these drivers a little bit towards the end of the session. Now coming into Poole, and it might be a bit, yeah, you can see there he's struggling with the balance and the handling of the car because he's so close to Blizzard up ahead, who I believe is on an outlap. Indeed he is. Pulls out the way to the left hand side. That would have put off Paris a little bit. He wouldn't have wanted to be picking up the dirty air from a car in front around a corner like Poole. But he's managed to clear the Red Bull now, and he can press on now coming into the final sector of 14.710. So this is looking pretty competitive so far from the Williams driver as he now files through Blanchimont then to complete his first real go in this qualifying session. Left and just under 4.5 minutes left as well. Up into 8th gear, over 200 mile an hour. ERS mode number 3 instead of 4 for some of these drivers. Heavy braking into the bus stop chicane. He's managed to get a nice line into and out of that as well. Straighten up the car, open up the DRS, stay over to the right hand side. And Paris's first lap time is good enough for 4th place, a 42.759. First to 4th, separated by just 2/10 of a second. And Midnight keeping up his ever impressive form at the moment. He's splitting the Williams drivers. Blizzard has left the session. Is that? I've just seen our pole man has left the session. He's only got a few minutes to get back in, otherwise he will not be able to take the start of this race. So our pole man then, for whatever reason, has lost connection to the session. Hopefully he can get back in sooner rather than later, because it will be pretty upsetting for the Red Bull driver if he can't take the start of this race, as he's currently sitting on provisional pole. So 3.5 minutes left. Some drivers out on circuit, some just biding their time. Lakitu then is coming round to, I think, come back into the pits. He's 2 seconds down on his previous best, so obviously he won't be improving anytime soon. Glock, where is he in all of this? He's up, coming into sector 1. He was marginally up, 600ths of a second. He was up on his own time, which would get him close to TGD Thomas. If he finds a couple of attempts, he'll move right up into the top 6. Indeed he is. He's now nearly 2.5 attempts up on his previous best of a 1:14.8 something or other in sector 2. So this is looking good for Glock if he manages to keep it clean through basically the bus stop chicane, because Blanchimont is basically flat out. There's no real challenge here for the drivers, rather than just make sure you don't make a mistake, obviously. But the bus stop chicane is where you either gain or lose the time in sector 3, and at the moment he's on course for maybe jumping up into the top 5 or top 6 out of the final corner, then opening up the DRS up to the line. And the Ferrari driver has lost a bit of time there. He's lost half a tenth in the final sector, which would have been good enough to put him up into P6, but as it stands, the Ferrari driver only good enough for P7 at the moment. His teammate yet to set a lap time. I'm going to be expecting some drivers now to come back out of the pits. Blizzard, I don't think, has rejoined just yet. Louis is out on circuit. I think he is. Yes, he is. And he's going for it because he's 18 thousandths, 200ths up on his previous best as well. He needs to find half a tenth, really. Half a tenth to dispose Blizzard of that pole position. But as it stands at the moment, Blizzard won't even be on pole position once the race starts if he can't get back into this session. Yellow flags in Sector 1 and Sector 2. Someone's obviously going slowly. Sam and Paris. Paris is staying in the pits, I think, by the looks of it, is coming out now. Sam is coming out of the pits. Yeah, Paris will be remaining in the pits, so his session is over. Midnight and Onyx back out on session. We know that Glock has pretty much finished unless he's planning on going again. Lakitu and TGD Thomas also winding themselves up for their final run as well. Wommer is on his final lap. Sam Gamer coming out of Rodillion, he's on his final lap as well. But we'll come back to Louis then, because he should be close to finishing this lap. He's 2.5 tenths up on his previous best, a 14.346 in Sector 2. If he can keep this up, it will definitely be provisional pole for the McLaren driver. Green flags in the bus stop chicane. Someone's obviously had an off or gone slowly through here. It shouldn't affect the McLaren driver too much. Nice line in and out of the final chicane. Straighten up the car, hammer the throttle, open a DRS, stick to the right hand side. The Subaru provisional pole, it is a 14.2.379, almost 2 tenths clear of Blizzard and 3.5 clear of Samster in P3, and that will be Louis' session over and done with them. Now he's going to be looking behind to see if anyone else can somehow improve, or if not, it'll be yet another pole position for the McLaren driver. So Midnight is coming round in to start his final lap. You can see him taking a wide line there through the bus stop chicane to try and gain a little bit of extra speed down this short straight. So where's Sam in all of this then? He's still halfway around the circuit on his out lap. Midnight's just started his. Onyx is a few seconds up the road coming through Rouge. I don't think there's anyone else further down. Well, Pablo we know is quick. Glock has retired from the session. He feels he cannot improve and he won't be from 7th. So Pablo's coming round to start his final lap. Lewis currently on his, same for Matt as well, who's coming around now to complete sector 2. We'll have a look at his time, see what it's like. A mid 14 will be pretty good round here, but it's a high 14, but it's still competitive at least. So we'll stay with Matt for now to see what he can do in this Alfa Romeo. His teammate is retired from the session many minutes ago. So Matt and Toxic Tomato have yet to set their first and what will only be their only lap time in this session. 7.65 seconds left of the session. So Matt will cross the line and be the first one to finish this session. Doesn't look too bad there, coming into and out of the bus stop chicane. And over the line he comes, and his session ends with P7. So Matt manages to move up into 7th place. Where is everyone else? Sam in all of this is just starting his final lap. Midnight is coming up to the Fania chicane. Where's Onyx and all of this? He's a few seconds up the road, losing the back end as well, coming into Curva Pour Frere and putting that Williams into the wall. Damage and debris all over the circuit. His session is over. Yellow flags there on the side of the circuit, but it shouldn't put off too many people, and hopefully there Onyx can recover to the track and make sure he stays out the way of all the cars that are coming round behind him. Samster has made a mistake, retired from the session, so we'll look at Midnight then, currently down in 6th position at the moment. Thomas has improved on his final run and puts the Haas car up onto the second row of the grid in P4, but can Midnight improve his own position? If he finds a 10th of a second, it'll be good enough for P3, but he's made a mistake, it seems. He wasn't happy and he's coming back into the pits. That is a shame. Onyx we know is done. Lakitu running horribly wide there, coming through the Fania chicane. What is his sector 2 looking like? It is a 15.1, so I don't think he's going to be improving. Whereas Pablo Yogula and all this, he's 8 tenths up apparently on whatever previous lap time he's done. Up to the line, what can he do? He's obviously validated somewhere, 42.8. but his previous best was a 43.7, so Pablo Yogla then will be lining up in 15th place, and we're pretty much just waiting for Lakitu then to complete his qualifying run. But you can see there he's a 10.5 down on his previous and best, so if he manages to do the mother and fathers of all sector 3s, Lakitu will not be improving from P10. Indeed he doesn't. The Mercedes driver ends the session. So the common trend this season seems to be the McLaren on pole position, and that's exactly what RRT Louis has done with a very, very competitive 42.379. Blizzard will join him on the front row if he has managed to get back into the session. I haven't noticed, hopefully he has. Samster in P3, Thomas in P4. Not the first time we've seen these two up in P3 and P4. Paris in 5th, Midnight in 6th, splitting the Williams drivers. But Onyx has that 5-place grid penalty for contact earlier in the session, so he'll be starting outside the top 10 on those soft tyres. I mean, it's Matt Tibos, Glock and Lakitu completing the top 10. Outside of it, one more Lewis Sandgamer official, LR Nick, Pablo Yogla and Toxic Tomato, the only driver not to set a lap time. I'm going to take a very short break here. I'll be back with you guys during the formation lab. So here we go then, the drivers are now on their formation lap. Blizzard's car is on the grid, but it has ghosted. Initially when it started and we saw the cars on the grid waiting to go away for the formation lap, Blizzard's car wasn't there, it was an empty space. So I don't know if he's managed to get into his car or not. It's still ghosted, the other drivers are making their way through him as well. So then we'll bring up, because, yeah, let's have a look here, the tyres. So then the tyres, yeah, of course, if you start inside the top 10, you start the race on the tyres you set your best lap on. The only anomaly in this is Onyx, who will be starting this race with a 5-place grid penalty. That's why he's down in P12. So he is starting on the soft tyres, but they're not a brand new set of soft tyres. They are his qualifying set of tyres. So Onyx already at a disadvantage here. And the top 9, of course, all on the used set of tyres that they had in qualifying. So Wommer then has now been promoted to P10. He's on a fresh set of medium. Same for Lewis, promoted to P11, fresh set of medium tyres. And after that, Sam Gamer, LR Nick and Toxic Tomato in 13th, 14th and 16th going onto the softs. Pablo Yogla onto the mediums. And no one outside the top 10 going onto the hard tyres. So it's quite clear then that this rain will be arriving sooner rather than later. Because otherwise, if it was really going to be just a little rain shower towards the end, it might negate a change onto the wet weather tyres, and I think most people would go onto the hard tyres. But it looks like then that we could see some rain from mid-race distance onwards, which is why the back half of the field have either gone for softs or for the medium tyres. So Louis then leads the field round, leading the championship, leading the field yet again. Blizzard still not in his car. I don't think he has rejoined the session, which is going to be agonisingly painful for the Red Bull driver, who was very quick in qualifying, lining up in P2. Sam in P3. Bit of a qualifying specialist at the moment from the Renault driver. Hopefully he can keep it clean in the race and pick up some much needed points. Same for Thomas as well. He's always there inside the top 4, top 5 in qualifying. So he lines up in 4th. And it's Paris in 5th. Midnight keeping up his ever impressive display so far in this part of the season. He lines up in P6. Matt DeBost in 7th. Glock, the returning Glock to the Prestige tier, his second start now in P8. Nikita in 9th. Wommer inside the top 10. And it's Lewis in 11th. Onyx after 5-place grid penalty starts in 12th. Sam Gamer, LR Nick, Pablo Yogla disappointing in qualifying. He's a lot quicker than his qualifying time says. And Toxic Tomato at the back of the field, not setting a lap time. So here we go then. Blizzard is not in his car. We'll have to discount, or maybe he is, I'm not too sure, but we'll keep one eye obviously on Louis at the front of the field. Hopefully change the camera angle. There we go, that's what we'll do. We've got 5 lights here at Belgium for round 13. The lights are out and away the drivers go now. It's a good initial start by the McLaren driver, immediately over to the racing line to get the best line into turn 1. Blizzard is in his car by the looks of it, making slight contact with Sam as they battle for second and third. Further back, oh, we've got a Williams spinning. Who's that? That looks like Paris. Paris has been spun at La Source hairpin and drops to the back of the field. But here come the field then through Rouge and Radillion for the first time. Louis does have that lead, but he thinks he might lose it. But by the time they come to Les Combes, Samster and Blizzard are side by side as they come over the Kemmel Straight. Then in the background is Thomas as well in 4th position. You can see all the cars behind are dinking. Oh, and there's contact up ahead. Look at that. Sam and Blizzard have made contact halfway down the Kemmel Straight, and Sam is off the circuit. Blizzard is falling down as well, and Thomas has been gifted P2, and Louis does keep that lead then. Paris leaves the session as well. Sam is off the circuit somewhere, and the whole midfield are jucking and weaving amongst themselves, trying to make their way through and pick up as many positions. Sam has a 10-second penalty for something or other, and the virtual safety car is out for accident damage all around set to 1. So a ferocious start there for some of these drivers. Louis leads, Thomas in 2nd. Midnight is up into 3rd place. Matt is 4th. Nick is 5th. The Alfa Romeo drivers P4 and P5 after that. And Wommer is in 6th place on those medium tyres. So we'll scroll down very, very quickly. Blizzard is in his car. Heavily damaged front wing. Sam is in his car still. He hasn't left. He's got a damaged front wing. Paris, we know, has left the session. He might have rejoined, actually. I'm not too sure. But Louis then leads as well underneath the safety car conditions here, but I think it's going to go green flag racing very, very shortly. Sam has a drive-through penalty as well for speeding under the virtual safety car. So Sam has a 10-second penalty and now a drive-through penalty as well. We have gone green flag racing again, I think. Yellow flags in sector 3. So Louis leads, Thomas 2nd, Midnight in 3rd, and he's lost time. Oh, contact there between Matt Tibos or LR Nick. Oh, yeah, it would have been Matt. So Nick now challenging Midnight as they come up to the bus stop chicane to complete lap 1. He's going to have to give him the space, gives him the squeeze, trying to force him off a little bit. They're almost 3 wide coming out of the chicane. They are 3 wide. Further back as well between Glock Glock, Onyx and Wommer. And as they come across the line, it's Louis that leads, Thomas in second, Midnight defending the inside into turn 1 against LR Nick. Matty Boss very close behind as well. And then we've got Onyx in 6th position. He's just ahead of Glock. Wommer, Sam Gamer inside the top 10 in 9th place. Nikita, I think, pretty much remains inside the top 10 in 10th place as well. We'll jump on board as the Red Bull driver then. Yellow flags again in sector 3. We've got Lewis, Samster and Blizzard all in the pit lane in to fix accident damage. And along the Kemmel straight then for the second of 22 times in this race, all trying to pick up slipstream from each other. We've got Nick and Midnight fighting over 3rd and 4th up ahead. We'll jump aboard with Matt, see what's going on. Nick has managed to get that Alfa Romeo up into the podium spots as well. Midnight and Matt Tibos just ducking and weaving around. Oh, puff of smoke there from the front right of LR Nick then. It's managed to correct it nicely, and look at this, Matt's trying to hang it around the outside as they come into the corner with no name. That won't work through there, won't work either down into Pouon as well. He'd be mad and brave to go side by side through here, and Midnight does indeed manage to keep ahead in P4 at the moment. So Matt remains in 5th, Onyx then up into 6th position, so he's gained I think 6 positions from the start. We'll have a look to see who has gained what. How the hell do I do that? It's over here, isn't it? There it is, yes. So we'll have a look then. Louis holds on to his pole position. LR Nick is up to 11 positions. He started this race in 14th. He's running in 3rd, and we're not even at the end of lap 2. That's a phenomenal start by the Alfa Romeo driver. Midnight's gained 2. Matty Boss has gained 2. Onyx, I mentioned, gained 6. Glock, Wommer, Sam Gamer have all gained positions because Blizzard, Lewis and Samster and Paris as well down in 13th have all fallen foul of incidents at the first half of this first half of the opening lap, I should say. And so all of these guys now well inside the top 10 after starting further down the order. Louis sets another fastest lap. DRS is now enabled. 2 DRS zones here. The first one is a short one across the main straight, which we won't really see much overtaking going into La Source hairpin unless the car in front makes a bit of a mistake in the bus stop chicane. The DRS detection point is around about here, I think, or maybe even further back across the grid hatchings for the support races. You have to wait a long time going through the detection point before you get to the activation point, which is just here. You hear the audible beep in the air and the cars ahead are all weaving from side to side to try and break the toe. That's not, it looks a bit daft and silly on stream, but the drivers are allowed to do that unless of course the car is very close behind, and changing your direction too many times down the straight will result in a penalty and a few rude words in the parties afterwards. But if the cars are spread out pretty much like this, and there's no harm moving left to right, you're literally just doing it to try and not put off the driver behind you, but try to break the toe behind and stop that driver behind from gaining too much. And so we'll probably see quite a few of that down the Kemmel straight as this race develops. But Louis still leads 1.7 ahead of Thomas, who indeed has a 1.5 second gap over Nick, who's just got a little squivelly there on the exit curb of Pouon. And I mentioned in qualifying, you do want to kind of give the curbs around here, certainly around Pouon, a little bit of respect, because if you run too much of the car over, either the inside or outside, you'll find the car being spat off the circuit. So Onyx then up into 6th, now putting a bit of pressure on the Alfa Romeos and Midnight's Racing Point. Further down, we've got Glock in 7th, losing touch a little bit. Same for Wommer in 8th, as Lakitu and Toxic Tomato behind. So Toxic Tomato then, after his poor qualifying, the only driver to not set a lap time, now inside the top 10 in 10th place. Then we have Sam Gamer and Pablo Yogler, who are attempting to go side by side, both running off the circuit, coming through the final part of Blanchimont as well, which is hardly surprising. And up the inside goes a Toro Rosso driver. Sam gives him the space. Nice move there by Pablo up into P11. Further back, Paris is back in his car, circulating around in 13th, coming into the pits to fix that front wing at the end of lap 3. Blizzard, we know, is being in the pits already. He's gone onto the medium tyres. Lewis also onto the he's gone onto the soft tyres, and Samster also onto the medium tyres. So these guys will be hoping and praying for maybe a safety car, or when the rain arrives it causes a bit of carnage further up the field. But I think the incident between Blizzard and Sam, not too sure what happened. I think 2 into 1 basically didn't go. Paris obviously had a tag from someone on the exit of La Source, which is why he spun. Possibly by Lewis, which is why he was in the pits as well, fixing damage. And we've got moves further back going on down here. What's happening down here? We've got Lakitu and Wommer. They're exchanging positions for P8. And if Wommer wants to try and help Louis win the Constructors' Championships for the McLaren team, he needs to really start picking up some points. Having said that, though, you might as well call it the Louis F1 team. As I mentioned with the standings at the beginning of the stream, pretty much every single point has come from Louis. And because of his very impressive lead in the Drivers' Championship, is why McLaren is pretty much a one-car team this season so far, even though Wommer is here in 9th place. All the points that Louis has gained means that McLaren lead the Constructors' Championship as well. But Wommer can certainly help. by picking up some extra additional points with some good finishes. He's running in 9th at the moment, just ahead of the Ferrari of Toxic Tomato. Pablo Jogler has now joined that battle as well after disposing of Sam Gamer at the bus stop chicane on the previous lap. And I think Sam might be carrying a bit of damage because he's losing time. Indeed, it looks like he's at the front right. He's missing an end plate. Not too sure. Let's have a quick little look through here. Indeed, he is. So that'll be why Sam is not hanging on to the back of this little slipstream train behind Glock all the way up in 7th, because he has got a damaged front wing. So I'll explain why he's losing time. He may very well be in the pits at the end of his lap as well to fix that damage. He's on the soft tyres, so it makes sense to maybe come in, go for a set of mediums, and he's he's decided to carry on. So all these guys inside the top 10. There's a few little battles sort of forming. 8th, well, I think probably Lakita and Glock are still relatively close together. We've got Onyx and Matt Tibos side by side on the run down to Uruge. Hopefully these two can sort their differences out before they file into this frighteningly sort of run up the hill. It's not as demanding and challenging as it was maybe, let's say, 10 or 12 years ago, that sort of thing. The cars are now more aerodynamically grippier as well, and so the downforce generated going up through Uruge and Rodillion is far greater than what it was, let's say, in the late 90s, early noughties, as Onyx just runs wide there, or runs the inside of the Lacom. But he keeps hold of that P5 for now. Jump aboard with Matt, just having half a look up the inside. But no way through here. Pretty much one line traffic really now until maybe Blanchimont, where you can try to get a nice toe and slingshot past into the bus stop chicane. There are overtaking opportunities around here, but with such the sector 2 being medium to high speed corners everywhere, it's difficult to really try and put a move on. Lewis extends track limits too many times and picks up a 3-second time penalty. Won't change too much. He's all the way down in P14, unfortunately. So Onyx then continuing his charge, lap 5 of 22. He started this race in 12th. He qualified in 7th, but he had a 5 place grid penalty for contact with someone, I'm not too sure who. And so he started in 12th, gained an advantage with a few people ahead having incidents on lap 1. And he's put a move on this lap on Matt Tibos into P5. So his next target will be VRT Midnight, who's trying valiantly to stay inside that DRS window of LR Nick. And somewhere Thomas is losing a bit of time, because LR Nick is now within a second as well. So it's a really, really good showing here by the Alfa Romeo driver. And talking of Alfa Romeo, the other one, Matt Tibos, is in the pits. I'm not too sure if he's going on to the medium toes. Is he having a front wing change? We'll have a look. I don't think so. I think it might just be guys early getting off of these soft tyres. We'll have a look, see if there is a front wing change for the Alfa Romeo driver. There is not. Sam Gamer, we know, will be having a front wing change, whereas Lakito, he's back out as well, so he hasn't had a front wing change. So I think some of these drivers just getting off the soft tyres early, getting onto the mediums, getting into the rain shower. 16-17 laps on a set of medium tyres is a challenge as in itself. So I think these guys are already preparing for the rain towards the end of the race. It's always a risk, of course. It does say heavy rain, but of course that heavy rain may not be until the very last lap of this race, in which case you probably just struggle around on the dry tyres. So we are waiting to see when that rain shower does come in. This Toxic Tomato on the soft tyres is giving a bit of pressure to Pablo Jogler's medium shod Toro Rosso, running well in P8. Warmer up ahead as well, still inside the top 10 in P7. He's desperate for some good points as he flings that orange McLaren into Pouon. We've got Glock in 6th, Onyx in 5th, Midnight in 4th, LR Nick in 3rd, Thomas in 2nd, 3 seconds behind our race leader ILRT Louis, who still leads the way here, has done from the start. He was worried about leading coming out of Rodillion on the first lap along the Kemmel Straight, thinking he might get passed by 1 or 2 drivers with the slipstream behind, but he was helped because Blizzard and Sam, who were fighting over 2nd and 3rd, made contact coming into the braking zone for Lacom, which put both of them into the wall. Sam picked up a 10-second penalty for it, and then both drivers had to pit at the end of lap 1 to fix their front wings. So Thomas then starting to come under a little bit more pressure from LR Nick, and this will now be a battle for P1 rather than P2, because Louis is in the pits, as is VSR Onyx, as is Glock, all coming off of these soft tyres now, making the change onto the mediums for the rest of this race, well, I hope at least the rest of this race. So the order will now change for the next few laps, as those that started on the mediums will start to move up through the field. So it's Thomas leading. LR Nick will have DRS as well, but he's too far back to try anything into the Lacom chicane. But he's gaining all the time. Toxic Tomato picks up a 3-second penalty, and just at the end of a straight there, LR Nick really did gain a good couple of attempts. So Thomas, I think, will be aware of that. He'll look behind him now and see that Alfa Romeo is a lot closer than what it was 20 or 30 seconds ago. So these two will be duking it out for the race lead at the moment. So Midnight in third. He's lost touch a little bit, but he's quite happy hanging on in that P3 for now. It's an inherited P3 because obviously Louis has pitted. Woman out into fourth, Yogurt in fifth, Toxic Tomato in sixth. Louis is out on the medium tyres and he's in clean air as well. That will help him out. Onyx, same for him as well. Matt Tabos is just a few tenths behind, but the fact that Onyx has got no one in front of him means he can push on. And he may be able to get the jump over the likes of Thomas, LR Nick and Midnight up ahead once they do pit, probably at the end of this lap or the next lap as well. So Onyx is putting a very, very strong showing here. Started down in P12 after that penalty, running in P8 after his pit stop as well. And he has an opportunity for a podium finish. But Matt's looked very strong in the early part of this race as well, and he's not allowing that Williams driver to escape too much. Further down we've got Glock, Lakitu, Blizzard slowly moving up the order as well, but of course he's off strategy, as are some of the guys further behind, having pitted at the end of lap 1. And so we've got Lewis in 13th, Sam Gamer in 14th, making a hash of that corner. LR Nick comes into the pits and speeds at the same time as well. That's a 5-second penalty, but I don't know if LR Nick will serve it now in the pits. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Is he having the change? He is. So LR Nick will have 5 seconds added onto his race time unless he pits for wet tyres at some point. So where's Onyx and all this? He's coming into La Source. Will stay on board of the Williams driver. I think LR Nick will be exiting the pit lane well ahead of him. Indeed he does. So can Onyx do anything here now behind the Alfa Romeo driver through Eau Rouge, Radillion and along the Kemmel Straight? I think he will be close enough. If he can get a good line through here, he has managed to get a good line through. I think he's going to be close enough. Does he have the DRS? He does. And I think LR Nick is going to have to defend this position. Here comes Onyx in P7 at the moment. LR Nick stays on the racing line, and it's a comfortable move for the Williams driver up into P6. That is a true position change then, because Onyx pitted a lap ago. So we wait to see when Thomas and Midnight pit. It's now lap 8. I'll be expecting both of them in at the end, which will hand the lead to the McLaren driver. And it won't be Louis, it will be Wommer who started this race on the mediums. Pablo will be in second place. Louis will be back up into third. And then it'll be all eyes on. We'll see where Thomas and Midnight rejoin in relation to this battle between Onyx, Nick and Matt Tibos. So we're circulating at the moment in 6th, 7th and 8th. So lap 8 of 22, almost at half race distance already. You can see there on the left that Thomas and Midnight are both in the pits now for the change onto the medium tyres. Where will they rejoin with these guys here as well? Let's have a quick look then. So Thomas stays ahead of Midnight as they were on track as well as Onyx and all this will jump aboard with Onyx. We'll have a look, see where these cars are as they come out the pits. He's managed to get the jump on both of them. Where's Thomas? He's coming out the pits. I think them Alfa Romeos may be able to get the jump as well. Matt Tubos slots in between Midnight and Thomas. So Onyx and LR Nick have got the jump on Thomas, and Matt Tubos has managed to get the jump on Midnight as well. So Thomas and Midnight staying out a couple of extra laps. It's hurt them. They're on a slightly fresher set of medium tyres, but as you can see there, these guys are really starting to close up now. This is a battle really for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Wommer and Pablo Yogla are off strategy. They started on the mediums. They'll go a few extra laps here before making the change to the soft tyres. As for the weather, we know there's rain in the air. We know rain will arrive. We don't know when, and we don't know the ferociousness of the rain, if I could use that word. We don't know if they'll be having to make the change onto the intermediates and then the full wets. We don't know if they'll be able to struggle round for the final couple of laps once the rain does fall. And everyone at the moment is sort of sticking with the dry strategy, starting on the softs, going to the mediums, or mediums onto the softs. The only two drivers out there really that might try and carry these mediums as far as humanly possible will be Wommer and Pablo Yogla, and I could bet your bottom dollar they are contacting their race engineer every sector, every lap, asking if this rain is going to arrive, when is it going to arrive, when are we going to make the change onto the wet tyres, and more importantly, can I remain competitive on a used set of medium tyres and maybe get to that rain shower. I don't think it will happen unless the rain starts to fall in the next 2 or 3 laps. So Louis then in 3rd, net leader, sets a new fastest lap, a 46.485. It's Cohen comes on the stream. Hey man, good evening to you. You seem to be a stream regular, so good to see you again. 16 people watching now, which is a slightly lower turnout than what we usually have. I think the Pinnacle Tier, or yeah, the Pinnacle Tier might be still going. It might have finished by now. In fact, no, it would have finished by now, wouldn't it? Yeah, so 16 people watching. Good evening to each and every single one of you. Hope you're enjoying the race so far. Plenty more action to come. If you're only joining in the last couple of minutes, rain is in the air. It's due to arrive towards the end of this race. Louis is your net leader. And then we have a ferocious battle over second place between Onyx, Nick, Thomas, who's very, very close, Matt Tibos, and Midnight, who's up the inside, coming into Lacom and puts the move on the Alfa Romeo driver into 7th place. And Thomas cuts Lacom as well and picks up a 3-second time penalty. Further down, other drivers to talk about: Blizzard, Lewis, Paris, and Samster running in 12th, 13th, 14th, and 16th, all pitted in the early laps to fix accident damage. Sam Gamer had to pit a few laps ago to fix his front wing as well, which is why they are all towards the back of the field. Toxic Tomato is running in 11th, started last after not setting a lap time, and he's hanging on at the moment into P11, just less than a second away from Lakito. And Toxic is putting on a slightly better showing tonight than what he did last week. He was a bit spin-tastic last week, and he'll be looking to put them wrongs into a right with a somewhat competitive performance tonight. Only driver to not set a lap time, and which is why he started in 16th and last, but he's still running here. He's kept it out of trouble, and he's just one position away from a World Championship point. So yellow flags in sector 2 and 3. Lewis is losing position. Sam's off the circuit. I think there's been an incident here. Look at this. So we got Lewis is backed up into the wall. Sam is missing his left front wheel. We jump on board with Samster in all of this. So we've got a virtual safety car. Now where's Wommer and Pablo Yogler in all this? They've missed the pit lane. They've missed the pit lane. Look at that. It might have been an opportunity for them to pit. It would have been early. They would have been pitting several laps early, but they've missed the opportunity for anyone else going to pit underneath this virtual safety car. I don't think they will. No, indeed, everyone is going to carry on going. So something's happened there between Lewis, who has carried on, and Sam, who has unfortunately retired from the race. Well, we came on board, Sam was in the wall missing a wheel, Lewis was backing into the wall as well, so I can assume those two have had a bit of a boo-boo further down the order. So the virtual safety car for the second time in this race is now out. Wommer and Pablo Yogler very close together, just a few seconds ahead of Louis, who in all of this is now 9 seconds ahead of Onyx, and this is a battle that will be raging on, I think, towards the end of this race. This is essentially a battle for P2 at this point between Onyx and LR Nick. Sam again, that's the second time in this race, picks up a drive-through penalty for speeding under the virtual safety car, and Sam's race after his great qualifying, unfortunately, it's just fallen away from him. This has been a race to forget. My screen has just done that weird little flashy glitch thing, which usually tells me if we jump on board, rain is falling. Indeed it is. So pretty much bang on half distance, the rain that was predicted at some point has now arrived. The question now asked of all of these drivers is A, can they keep it clean, and B, when do they negate the change onto probably first the intermediate tyres. Heavy rain is predicted at the end of this race, but sometimes the intermediate tyres can get you through that little extra burst of shower towards the end of this race. So now all eyes will be on these drivers to see when they have to make a pit stop onto the intermediates. It could be within a lap, it could be within the next 6 or 7 laps. It's just the way the weather gods decide to play it. Wommer and Pablo Yogler carry on these medium tyres as to be expected. Louis slowly starting to close up. Thomas and Midnight into battle in the bus stop chicane as well. Might give Matt Tibos in 8th place an opportunity to send it up the inside if these two get out of shape into breaking for the short hairpin. So this is 6th and 7th. And the Midnight trying a sneaky little cut back there, but he's got to be aware that Matt Tibos is there and he's almost alongside. He is alongside, but he has to just slot back inside behind the racing point. Now for Eau Rouge for the first time, when it's not fully dry, and you can see there a little bit of oversteer twitchiness in the middle part of that corner for Matt Tibos, following the car closely in front. And Midnight and Thomas again side by side, and this time the racing point, slightly better top end speed, manages to make the position. And whilst all that's going on, LR Nick now up into 4th position, and I think these guys are starting to slow down just a little bit. We'll jump on board with Louis. He's now up behind Pablo Yogler and Wommer, and already it looks like then this is only really the first true lap that these guys have run in these conditions, and they do look already to be struggling somewhat. Pablo running just a little wide there through Pouon, and this is not the time of the race where you want to be running on 11-12 lap old medium tyres. And I think already the conditions are slowly starting to change. This could be the best call ever by both Wommer and Pablo Jogler. If these drivers need to pit in the next lap or two, and it's looking increasingly likely that they have to, the pace has certainly dropped off in the last minute or so, then Wommer and Pablo Jogler have pulled an absolute blinder here, because they'll all pit for the intermediate tyres, and these two will remain at the front of the field. So do these guys decide to pit at the end of this lap? I don't think... Oh, Wommer's gone deep into the bus stop chicane. And Pablo Jogler, and I think Louis is coming in as well. And Wommer in all of that is now going to lose so much time having to follow his teammate into the pits. He's going to be held by the McLaren team, because obviously they've got to serve Louis first. And Wommer then would have looked like coming out of this leading the race. But unfortunately he's going to be losing, I think, a couple of positions possibly here. Louis is in, and Wommer's got to back up behind. Everyone is in the pits. Look at that. Every single car is making this opportunity now to pit in, and it's Pablo Jogler that's going to rejoin in the front of the field. Louis then into second place. Who's going to be third? We don't know. We'll have a look at Onyx and see all this. I think Wommer, where's Wommer and all this? Yeah, look at this. He's lost out big time. Wommer could have been leading this race. He's going to rejoin the circuit in fifth. Onyx is now third. Midnight fourth. Wommer in fifth. Nick is in sixth position. Glock has gained it up into seventh. Lakito has gained massively. He's up into eighth place. Thomas all the way down into ninth. He was obviously held in the pits. Blizzard now up into 10th place, and Matt Boss down in 12th position as well. He'd have been held up in the pits, and all of this has now closed up the field a little bit. Paris and Samster finally into the pits as well. We've got yellow flags in sector 1. Thomas is out of the race. I can only assume he's lost it. And Matt Boss is spinning at the top of Eau Rouge. Look at this. The conditions nearly are now changing. Thomas has definitely crashed at the top of Eau Rouge, and Matt Boss has spun it as well. We'll jump on board. There he is on the left-hand side, Thomas. So he's lost it coming out of Eau Rouge into Radillion, into the wall, and out of the race goes a Haas driver. And Matt has spun himself all the way down into 12th as well. But here we are, lap 13 of 22. Now the race becomes alive. Who is going to be able to keep it clean? I think Louis is challenging for the lead. He is indeed. Pablo runs wide. Sam has crashed as well. He's out of the race, and all of a sudden we're down to 12 drivers, and Pablo's doing everything he can to hold on to this unlikely race lead by dint of starting on the medium tyres and carrying them through to when this rain arrives. He is your true race leader, I should say. The true race order is what you can see now. Louis is going to be doing everything he can to get past this Toro Rosso driver. Further back, Onyx is 7 seconds back. He's got Midnight behind him. This is a battle for the lead and a battle for third and fourth. Wommer then has lost out massively by running wide at the bus stop chicane. He's all the way down in fifth. He'll still be happy to be in fifth, but he could have been leading this race. LR, Nick and Glock close together in sixth and seventh. Lakito, Blizzard and Toxic Tomato complete the top 10. We'll come back up to the leaders though. They're almost side by side coming across the line. We'll jump on board with Pablo Jogler. He's got the inside line for the La Source hairpin, leaves the braking late. Where's Louis and all of this? He's going to try to cut back as well and try and get a better line and speed through here down to Eau Rouge. This is going to be brave. This is going to be mad if this does or doesn't work. They're side by side coming into Eau Rouge. We'll jump on board, and Pablo Jogler thinks that Valor is the better part of discretion and backs out of it. So that's Louis then back into the lead of this race, but Pablo won't let this lie. He can see a race victory here with the slipstream. No DRS, of course, just ducking, weaving left and right, trying to put that McLaren driver off. But Louis, even though he's a young man at heart, he's got a wise old head. He's been doing this a long time. He's been leading a lot of races, and I think Louis, now he's back in the lead, will stay comfortable. He'll be happy to just stay in the lead, keep Pablo relatively close to him. He had yellow flags in sector 1. Not too sure if someone's made a mistake somewhere. We'll scroll through. Matt Tibos, I think, is recovering to the circuit. Yes, I think Matt Tibos has had another spin. His front wing is heavily damaged as well. So unfortunately, the Alfa Romeo driver is... Oh, he's off. He's had a huge accident. Look at that. I reckon he's probably put that in the wall on purpose. Is that the way to call it? Yeah, I reckon Matt Tibos has pretty much just yeeted it into the wall there at top end speed to end his race, because it had literally fallen apart in the last couple of laps. That puts us all the way down into 11 runners. We had 16 runners only a few laps ago. Now we're all the way down into 11th. And that position is currently being held by Paris, who's 5.5 seconds behind the Ferrari of Toxic Tomato. But lap 14 of 22, Louis leads. He's now starting to slowly pull away from Pablo Jogler, who might already be settling down into keeping a smooth rhythm and keeping that P2 for himself. Onyx and Midnight still very close together in their battle for the final podium spot in third and fourth. And they've pulled away from Wommer, who's in fifth, and finds himself on his own in fifth as well. It's LR Nick and Glock battling over 6th and 7th. Very, very close together. Lakitu and Blizzard also very, very close together as well. Blizzard might try one here. Might try to send it out the inside into the Lassource hairpin. Barely see the car in front. Such is the heaviness of the spray. Is he going to try something? He's not indeed. So 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th very close together. Pablo Jogler extends somewhere and picks up a 3-second time penalty. So we've had a couple of drivers off at Eau Rouge. We've lost Matt Tibos and Thomas there. And coming through again on lap 15 of 22. Everyone's managed to keep it relatively okay this time, but Glock is right up behind LR Nick. It's Ferrari versus Alfa Romeo further back. It's Red Bull versus Mercedes. Blizzard manages to get past Lakitu. And LR Nick manages to defend that P6 from the Ferrari driver. So Blizzard then, who had an accident coming into Les Combes with Sam, as they were fighting over 2nd and 3rd place on the opening lap, now slowly starting to creep up, back up the order. I think Sam's left the session. So lap 15 of 22. So who holds the fastest lap? Because we know at this stage they will be given an extra championship point. It's Louis with 46.485, and as it stands, as I always say, there's a second bracket of fastest lap, something unique that One Hub Racing does. Is if you finish outside the top 10, if you're classified outside the top 10, all of those drivers outside of the top 10, whoever sets the fastest lap gets an extra championship point as well. So it always gives a bit of an incentive to the drivers that have nothing to fight for. Points wise, can at least fight for a extra world championship point for the fastest lap. As it stands, there's only one driver that will be classified outside the top 10, and that's Paris in the Williams, who's had a bit of a difficult, disappointing race after contact on the first corner. So if he finishes in 11th, he will pick up the extra world championship point. Yes, because he's the last driver that will be classified outside the top 10. So Blizzard in 8th, patiently waiting for an opportunity to get past Glock, or waiting for the Ferrari driver to make a mistake himself. But Glock is focusing everything ahead on trying to close and get past LR Nick as well. They are slowly starting to creep up and warm up. Oh, Glock's gone very deep into Lassource. That might give Blizzard a sniff of an opportunity. But the conditions are slowly getting worse. Visibility is getting worse as well, and I think Eau Rouge is going to be trickier and trickier with each lap that goes by. Pouhon as well is going to be a very, very tricky corner in these conditions. And Blizzard is gaining on Glock all the time, so he has high top end speed here even in these conditions. Glock doesn't defend it. Up the inside goes the Red Bull driver. Glock very late on the brakes as well, and they're going to be side by side into Les Combes. Can they keep it clean? A little bit of contact there, wheel to wheel, no harm in that. And again, he's still up the inside, and Glock gives him the space just about. Now they're side by side again, coming down into Rivage. And Blizzard does take that position. P7 and pushing the 5 Glock down into 8th. Lakitu watching on in P9. Meanwhile, Toxic Tomato and Paris getting closer and closer together. So Paris has an opportunity here to get himself inside the top 10. 16 of 22. You've got yellow flag in sector 2. Oh, LR Nick's crashed. LR Nick is out of the race. Has he lost it in Pouhon? I can only assume he has. There's his car on the right hand side, buried in the wall. Giovinazzi would be proud. And all of a sudden we are down to 10 drivers. In the last couple of laps, the Alfa Romeo drivers who were running in 4th and 5th on the opening couple of laps have both crashed underneath these conditions. So we're down to 10 runners then. Don't be surprised if we lose another 1 or 2 in these conditions. Louis leads 3.1 ahead of Pablo Jogler. Onyx is slowly creeping up. I think it was about 6 seconds a couple of laps ago. Now it's down to over 4. Midnight is being pulled along very nicely by the Williams driver. Further back, the other Williams driver, Paris, has now managed to get past the Ferrari Toxic Tomato up into 9th place. One of them in 5th. There's a good gap behind still, 3.5 seconds, and Blizzard has now dropped Glock with LR Nick spinning out. It was between the pair of them. So Blizzard now up into P6, Glock in 7th, Lakitu in 8th. Haven't seen much of the Mercedes drive. His teammate Yogurt was supposed to be here, but unfortunately he hasn't managed to make the start of the race. So he's running in 8th position as well, hoping for maybe a couple of more positions. Paris further back in 9th, really won't be able to do anything else from here, unless again people up the road decide to have accidents. And Tomato in 10th will be hoping to just keep it clean, get to the end of the race. Oh, the car's very twitchy for Rouge. He's off the circuit again. But he's managed to keep it back on the track And he's still circulating around in that P10. Lap 17 of 22. Just a few handful of laps to go. You might see the drivers start to struggle towards the end as the rain begins to intensify towards the heavy rain shower that is expected and predicted. We might see change onto the wet weather tyres. I think these guys might just struggle around on the inters to see the remaining few laps out. Louis leads 4.1 seconds after Pablo Jogler. Onyx and Midnight continuing a battle for the final podium spot. So as things stand at the moment, what does it do in terms of the championship? Well, we know that Louis has a very, very healthy 86-point lead. I believe it's an 86 or an 84-point lead, 86-point lead. Blizzard running in, or second place in the championship, is all the way down in 6th. Onyx is in 3rd place, so he will jump Blizzard as it stands, but I think that Louis will be very, very close to being 100 points ahead. Toxic Tomatoes on course to pick up his first championship point of the season. And Wommer as well will shoot up the standings if he manages to hold on to his P5 as well. Very healthy 10 points collected in this race. As for the constructors as well, McLaren are looking very, very good with cars running in P1 and P5, so they'll definitely hold on to the Constructors' Championship. As for Red Bull and Williams, well, Williams will certainly pick up more points here, but Red Bull will still be very close as well. And further behind as well, the battles between the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes, they'll be picking up even amount of points as well. So still be very close in the Constructors' Championship, but Louis will continue to extend his lead in the Drivers' Championship. Picks up a 3-second time penalty. That won't hurt him because Pablo Jogler behind also has a 3-second time penalty. And there's a bit of a field spread starting to happen, which is all too common in these conditions. It's very difficult to see the car in front of you and see the line you need to take as well, and it's very difficult to follow in these conditions. So that's why we're starting to see a bit of a field spread, considering everyone was very, very close together during the pit stop sequence a handful of laps ago. Blizzard extends in these difficult conditions and picks up a 3-second time penalty, which may hurt him towards the end. Midnight event just over a second away from Onyx. One event still losing time to the top 4, and Blizzard is slowly creeping in on him. Toxic Tomato picks up a 3-second time penalty all the way down in P10 as well. Paris is closing a little bit on Lakitu, but I don't think it's going to be enough before the end of this race. But Blizzard though, he's certainly getting a bit of a charge on, even having to move down into 7th gear through the final kink of Blanchimont. Such are these conditions challenging for these drivers. We've got yellow flag in sector 3. Oh, Toxic Tomato has binned it in the wall somewhere. He's out of the race. And unfortunately, that's us down to 9 drivers. They're dropping like flies since this rain started. And unfortunately for Toxic Tomato, you won't be classified. No championship point for you. That leaves 9 drivers then. Are we going to get a safety car or a virtual safety car for this? Doesn't look like it. Everyone is still chundering around at full race speed, or as much as they can in these conditions. Through Erosion, 19 of 22. Blizzard, very twitchy. Very, very twitchy. As Lakitu extends through Erosion, picks up a 3-second penalty. Here comes Paris through this. Oh, he extends as well. Yeah, Erosion, incredibly difficult. Erosion, Pouron. Blanchimont as well to an extent. Really challenging for these drivers in these conditions. You can see how hard this rain is coming down. And Louis then now 7 seconds ahead of Pablo Jogler. So McLaren driver on course then for another race victory. But Pablo has done well. Started on the medium tyres and managed to stay out there and pit at the same time as everyone else onto the intermediates, which is why he's up into P2. But Onyx is really starting to close up, and he's bringing Midnight through with him as well. So Toro Rosso driver not liking these conditions, and he's dropping time to Louis all the time, and he's now being called by both Onyx and Midnight. Blizzard has taken another half a second this lap so far out of Wommer, so Blizzard I think will be catching that McLaren driver before the end of the race. But look at this Pablo then, he's got to start looking in his mirrors a little bit, because Onyx and Midnight are coming like a freight train, and both of them want another position in this race. More points for them, and Midnight will be desperate to get onto the podium again. So we'll jump on board with the Williams driver as he now starts to put pressure on Pablo Jogler's Toro Rosso.
Over the line and 3 laps to go. Lap 20 of 22. I don't think these drivers will be pitting for full wet tyres. I think they would lose too much time unless the conditions really do change between now and the end of this lap. Onyx then now has his sights firmly set on P2. He's done well to catch in the last couple of laps through Eau Rouge again. All of them managing to keep it nice and clean. We will come back though to Wommer to see how he manages to tackle Eau Rouge, because I feel it's good to be on board with some of these guys to see how they manage to do it. He's fine. Blizzard, yep, he's fine through here. Glock, oh, a little bit sideways, but he's fine. And Lakitu manages to carry on as well. How's Paris going to take Eau Rouge this time by? You cut it last time, cuts it again this time. So I think Paris is giving up on taking Eau Rouge the correct way and just wants to survive through it. So Louis, 8.3 seconds is the gap now. So he's pretty much safe and secured unless he puts it into the wall. But this is a good battle that's now shaping up for the final couple of laps. Pablo has been caught now by Onyx. But catching is one thing, passing is completely another. Pablo runs just a little wide there through Pouon. He's managed to correct it nicely. And Midnight will be watching on with bated breath. He'll be hoping and praying that Onyx will go a bit deep into Fagnes. He manages to correct it nicely and keep going on his merry way. And Midnight will be hoping that Onyx gets close enough that he can start challenging Pablo Jogler. And Midnight will be hoping they trip over each other. One of them makes a mistake and he can get that racing point back onto the podium. He's had a few this season. And out of curve for Poor Frere, a long Blanchimont then. Trying to stick in that slipstream if you can. No DRS of course with these conditions. That's been disabled, so these guys have got to do... Oh, and Midnight there just puts the wheel onto that curb and manages to control it very nicely. Oh, and Onyx and Pablo Jogler are going very deep into the bus stop chicane. And look at this, and now with each other, and Onyx is pulling alongside, but he's getting a lot of oversteer coming out of the final chicane. He clips the wall as well. Don't know if he picked up any damage from it, but all of a sudden he's got to be very wary of Midnight behind. He's thinking about a move up the inside, has to back out at just the last second there, otherwise he'd been tagging that front wing, and you'd have lost some momentum as well with a very oversteery racing point coming out of La Source hairpin. So Onyx then almost losing it. Well, he did lose it, but almost hitting the wall coming out of the bus stop chicane, and Midnight had to back out going into turn 1. So these guys are pushing just a little bit too much at the moment, or a little bit more than normal. In Onyx's valiant attempt to try and dispose of Pablo Jogler's P2. And he's putting a lot of pressure on this Toro Rosso driver. Midnight's had one half chance already to get up into P3. You probably get another one, but as well before the end of this race. Louis then is steaming away into the distance as Pablo is spending more time looking behind than he is in front. Blizzard then, second and a half away from Wommer. He's slowly chipping away. He should be with him some point on the final lap. We might see one do or die attempt into the bus stop chicane. But Glock's too far back. Lakitu holding on bravely for that P8 at the moment as well. And Paris is slowly creeping in on that, but I don't think he'll be close enough to try anything. So the real main battle at the moment is this one here, second, third and fourth. And Pablo defends the inside. Coming into the Fagnes chicane, and Onyx he's got the inside. There's contact between them, and I think that Williams is going to be going around for a spin. It is, and Midnight has to slam on the brakes, otherwise he would have gone straight into the side of that Williams car, and that might have killed that battle for P2. Then Onyx tried it, got too much understeer, made contact, half spun the Williams, and Midnight had nowhere to go. It was either cream into the side of that Williams or brake suddenly and allow Onyx to correct himself. He's chosen the latter. And unfortunately Midnight then stays in that P4. That could have been the golden opportunity for him to get up into the podium spots. And Onyx would be very, very grateful. It was just a half spin, didn't end up in the wall. And now then coming into the final lap, Louis is well clear. We'll come back to Louis then, just see how he manages to tackle Eau Rouge for the 22nd and final time. It will be hilarious and heartbreaking if he loses it through here, but I very much doubt it. He's backing off the throttle as well to make sure he's fine through here. And now we come back to Pablo Jogler, Onyx and Midnight as well. The gaps are starting to form between them, obviously with Onyx having that half spin from the previous lap. And I think they've all managed to make it through Eau Rouge relatively unscathed. How's Wommer in all of this? Blizzard is now within a second, so Wommer's starting to feel the pressure, running wide through a Dillion at the top as well, who had lost a bit of time and picks up a 3-second time penalty for it. Everyone else has managed to survive for the 22nd and final time. Paris has given up taking it the right way, as we've seen for the last few laps. So Wommer and Blizzard are now locked in a battle for 5th and 6th. We know Louis is well clear, and Pablo Jogler has got just one more lap, less than a lap to go then to defend this P2 from both Onyx and Midnight behind us. But it has been, to be honest, a very entertaining race, even though we've lost a lot of drivers in the second half due to the conditions really affecting the handling of these cars. But we've still got a good battle here for second, third and fourth. It might all change with penalties as well. And Onyx then is slowly starting to gain. He's putting the pressure on. Can he get past Pablo for this P2? Very late on the brakes into Fanya's. The right and then the left as well. Try and stay away from that curb. You don't want to spin up these rear wheels. He doesn't want another half spin if possible. Midnight is valiantly holding on here, hoping and praying for a mistake ahead. He wants a podium. He feels he deserves a podium here. Pablo has had a fantastic race. He started this race on the medium tyres and pitted at the same time as everyone else. But we'll come back to the leader, ILRT Louis. Yet again, another pole position, another fastest lap, another race win. The championship is almost his. And it's another race win for the McLaren driver. This is the final do or die attempt then from Onyx. He's pushing the Toro Rosso. He's going to try and do a bump and run if he can, but he can't hold it off. Pablo will cross the line in second place. Does he keep it? He does not. He drops down to third. Onyx and Pablo had penalties. Midnight is promoted to P2. Wommer and Blizzard are almost side by side coming across the line, and Wommer picks up his best result of the season with P5. Blizzard in 6th. Glock finishes 7th and pushed down to 8th as he had penalties, and Paris crosses the line as our final classified finisher. So congratulations there to RRT Louis, yet another race win. He's almost 100 points clear of anyone else at this stage, and there's still 8 races left to go. VRT Midnight, by dint of having less penalties, picks up a well-deserved P2. And hats off to Pablo Jogler, staying on those medium tyres and hoping and praying that the rain shower arrives at the right time. It did, and a Toro Rosso driver completes the podium with P3. So there are the final classified results, and just to confirm, quite a few people had penalties. Midnight and Paris were the only ones that didn't pick up any penalties. I'm quite surprised how Paris didn't pick up a time penalty for basically cutting Eau Rouge in the last 3 or 4 laps. But Louis then takes down the race win for 26 points for the fastest lap of the race as well. Midnight, another strong showing from the Racing Point driver. He's in the top 5 of the championship. He's back on the podium here in P2. Pablo Jogler in P3 for Toro Rosso after starting on the medium tyres, just holding off Onyx there at the end. The Williams driver in 4th. Wommer will be happy but disappointed with P5. He could very well be on the podium if he didn't make that mistake before the pit stops, and then Blizzard, Likitu and everyone else comes in afterwards. So it's my job now then to come up with my 2 driver of the day nominations. Being a solo commentator, both of the nominations have to come from myself. First one, absolutely will be going to Pablo Jogler, starting the race on the medium tyres. More luck than anything. That rain could have arrived at lap 16, 17, at which point you would have already been in the pits for a set of soft tyres, I feel. So a bit more luck than actual strategy played its part, but Pablo kept it clean in the first half of the race, and he was at the front of the field when everyone needed to make the change onto the intermediate tyres. And even though he's fallen down into P3, he put up a spirited battle against Louis and defended well from Onyx and Midnight towards the end. So my first vote definitely goes to Pablo. I'm tempted to give it to Louis, but it was nearly a dominating display by him. But I think Wommer deserves credit. He struggled since joining the Prestige tier, and it's been all about the other McLaren driver of Louis. But I think Wommer today, then, he was at one point looking good for coming out of the pit lane in the lead of the race, but he outbroke himself at the bus stop chicane, rejoined in 5th place, held on to that fifth place ahead of a much faster Blizzard's Red Bull. So I think Wommer then should give get the second nomination as well. So my 2 nominations, which will be released on Twitter by One Hub Racing, will be Pablo Jogler and Wommer. So that therefore brings the stream to an end. Thank you very much to each and every single one of you that has joined the stream at various points, and I'll see you guys next week for some more action in the Prestige tier.